Let's talk about Kubernetes Authorization. Kubernetes Authorization consists of two scopes, namespaces and clusters. Namespaces are groups of organized and unique resources. Namespace scoping is only relevant for namespaced items, such as deployments, services, etc. If you're working with multiple users, namespaces are a great way to divide your resources between them. Clusters are where the collection of namespaces are found. A cluster is comprised of nodes with containerized applications. The condition of a Kubernetes cluster interprets many functional elements, such as running applications and workloads, quantities of replicas, and more. It's generally better to set up access restrictions to namespaces where resources are isolated, rather than doing it in clusters. Namespaces and clusters have their own set of access control objects. Roles and role bindings for namespace, and cluster roles and cluster role bindings for clusters. Roles define what permissions and policies somebody has in their scope. For example, the developer role has access to secrets, pods, create resources, and more. Role bindings will bind a role to an individual or group of users, service accounts, etc. Most privilege escalation attacks happen because of excessive permissions given to users. The biggest culprits are cluster roles and cluster role bindings, which give permissions across the whole cluster instead of a particular namespace. Be very careful when managing these. What is role-based access control, or RBAC? To put it simply, RBAC restricts network access depending on each individual's responsibility within an organization. RBAC applies restrictions and limitations to subjects in order for them to stay within their roles. The subject is the user, the group of users, or the role. That action can be the type of access like get, create, update, or delete. It's the resource that needs to be accessed. It could be a pod, a deployment, or a network policy. For example, let's say the user Bob wants to get access to a certain pod. RBAC asks, can Bob get access to a pod? If Bob's permissions allow it, he can access the pod in question. Remember, RBAC is allow only. There is no deny rule. Make sure that no conflict is present between different roles. Set your RBAC policy to explicitly allow access to a resource. Every other permission is denied by default across the entire cluster. Continue exploring the basics of Kubernetes security with AppSecEngineer's courses. Never stop learning.